Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a while, but I'm back and a lot has happened. And I'm going to be updating you guys a little bit. But as you can tell by the title, I had another baby. And this time, it was in my other uterus. So for those of you new here, I have a rare condition called Uterus Didelphys. So as a really, really quick explanation, what that means is that I have two uteruses. So the average woman has one uterus, but when I was a fetus, I didn't quite develop properly. That sounds wrong, but my uterus just didn't finish developing. So I have two completely separate sovereign uteruses. They each just function completely separate from each other. Now I do have a video that goes more into depth. So I'm going to put, is it here? I'm gonna put a card right here, linking you to a video that explains it a little bit more. So if you're curious, you can watch that when you're done this one. Anyway, having two uteruses really complicates things when it comes to pregnancy. So I have one daughter, and she was born back in 2019, and I had her in my right uterus. So that I also have another video totally dedicated to my pregnancy with her. There were a lot of complications, and as you can imagine with two uteruses, there's not a lot of research on it. You can't really find out much on the internet about women with pregnancies in separate uteruses. So after I had my daughter back in 2019, I had her by C-section because she was breech. So I just wanted to give myself lots of time to heal and recover before having more babies, because I've always wanted lots of babies, but I really needed to give my body some time. So fast forward to October 2020, we were surprised to find out that we got pregnant again. And this was right when I was starting a new job, so a lot of chaos going on, but we had just found out I was pregnant again, which was such a huge surprise, but we were so excited. It was something that we wanted. It came a little sooner than expected, but we were really, really excited. So I wasn't able to get in for an ultrasound with that pregnancy for quite a while. All the ultrasound places were really booked up, and it was really just super hard to get in. So it wasn't until I was about 8, almost 9 weeks, that I started to cramp a lot. I had not yet seen the baby. I had not yet seen the heartbeat. So I didn't have the reassurance of that. And I started cramping quite badly on a family trip. And I ended up going to the washroom and was surprised. I found blood in my underwear and kind of concluded in my own brain that I had miscarried. I went to the hospital shortly after and confirmed that I did indeed miscarry this baby. That baby, we confirmed, was in my right uterus. So obviously this was just a really chaotic, messy time filled with heartbreak. It was a very, very challenging time. Probably one of the hardest things I had to go through mentally and physically. Anyway, so we found out that pregnancy in October. I miscarried beginning of December. So shortly after my body had gone through the whole miscarriage process and I felt like I was healing up good, this was about end of December at this point, just after Christmas. I wanted to confirm that the HCG pregnancy hormone had left my body. I honestly, genuinely was just curious and wanted to know. So I decided to take a pregnancy test, and to my surprise, there was a very faint line. I didn't think very much of this because obviously I was testing with the intention of seeing if there was any HCG left, and I knew that would mean if there was any, there would be a faint line. But there was always the lingering thought in the back of my mind that potentially maybe I was pregnant, but I knew it was much more realistic that it was just leftover HCG. So yeah, I didn't think very much of it, and I just left it for a couple of days. 2 days later, I decided to test again just to see if that line had changed at all. So I tested it again, and it got ever so slightly darker. Granted, these lines were like super duper faint and hard to see to begin with, so I wasn't really taking this seriously at all. But it was starting to get ever so slightly darker, and this really confused me. I didn't know what this meant. I had this wishful thinking in the back of my brain, maybe this was a pregnancy, but I knew realistically it probably wasn't. So I left it for another couple days, and I tested again in hopes that it would be darker, and it was lighter again. So I kind of gave up. I was like, okay, my body's just doing wonky things. I just miscarried. Let's just give it time to figure itself out. So I left it for probably 4 days, 4 or 5 days. And then I decided to test again. I had so many Amazon cheapy tests. I just kind of did it for fun. So I tested again, and it was a blatant, blaring positive, which was shocking. So I miscarried December 6th, and I tested positive January 4th. So less than a month later, I tested very positive again. So, I called my doctor, tried to sort it out. The doctor was trying to act like it was just my body doing weird things, but I knew at this point that I was pregnant again, and it was very exciting, but also I had a lot of mixed feelings because I was still mentally recovering from my miscarriage, which was less than a month prior. So it was a very confusing time filled with mixed feelings. Sometimes I think back to when I was testing and it was really faint, slightly darker, got faint again, and then got really dark. And I have my suspicions. I don't know how crazy they are, but one thought that I had was maybe I got pregnant with twins, because there was a reason for that initial faint line. That wasn't leftover HCG, or else I wouldn't have gotten pregnant. So my thought is that potentially it could have been a twin pregnancy. One of the embryos implants before the other, puts off HCG, which as a result makes the line darker, and then maybe that embryo just kind of stopped developing. HCG starts to drop again while the other one's implanting, and then as the other one implants, the HCG rises. I don't know. I am not a doctor, so I don't even know if that's how it works, but that was a thought that I had, and I just wanted to throw that in there. Anyway, so after going through a miscarriage, my doctors finally started to take my pregnancies a little more seriously. With uterus didelphys, there's so many risks that with my previous pregnancy, they really probably should have been more involved and cautious. So this time they were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna be like on it. We're gonna be testing you and getting blood work and ultrasounds like right off the bat. So I went in for ultrasounds almost weekly with this pregnancy, and I am very glad that they did, because it gave me so much peace of mind. Now, what blew my mind was my first ultrasound with this pregnancy was around like 5.5 weeks, I think. And when I went in, we found out that I was pregnant in my left uterus this time. So I had my daughter in my right uterus. I had the miscarriage in my right uterus. And this time I got pregnant in my left uterus. Now this was mind-blowing for me, because I haven't gone through a ton of testing with my condition. Like, I don't really know how my body works with this condition. I don't know I didn't know if both of my uteruses were even functional, if I was fertile in both sides. I wasn't even totally sure if I had periods from both sides. So this was like groundbreaking for me, like totally crazy. And with that amazement came a lot of anxiety and stress, because my pregnancy with my daughter was very stressful, very anxiety inducing, very painful. We had several preterm labor scares. I had to be on medication to keep my cervix closed. We had breech presentation and C-section because of that. And there were just a lot of factors to that pregnancy that kind of freaked me out a bit for future pregnancies. And now, on top of all those risks, I'm now pregnant in a completely separate uterus. That's a whole new beast. When I was diagnosed with Uterus Didelphys, we had found out that my right uterus, which I had my daughter in, was substantially larger in size from my left uterus, which is why I wondered if I was even fertile or functional in my left side. So I think my left uterus was almost half the size of my right uterus. And they're already both half the size of a normal uterus. So if that puts things in perspective, I don't know. But that was very, very scary for me. So I pretty much went through most of the pregnancy very stressed and anxious. It did turn out that both pregnancies, the one with my daughter and the one with my son, spoiler alert, it worked out. There were a few similarities, but also a lot of differences, which was shocking to me. But yeah, it did work out. I carried my son to term, and although he was breeched just like his sister, and he was delivered by C-section. So yeah, that was fun. I did have a pretty traumatic birth. Although it was a planned C-section, my son, he was really struggling to breathe when he was born and ended up being taken to the NICU right away. I barely got to see him for like the first almost 24 hours, I think. I don't really remember. It was all a blur. But I didn't get to see him for a good while, and it was very scary hearing him struggle to breathe and everything. I could, if you want, go into detail with that in another video. Anyway, we're about 6 months out now. I have a little boy. His name is Emmerich. He was born at the beginning of September, so he's 6 months now. Life has been crazy with 2 kids, but I'm loving it. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to them. I do have a good number of subscribers that actually also have Uterus Didelphys. We have a little community going here. So if I can't answer some of your questions, we might be able to get a good discussion going and having some other people answer your questions. Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys a little life update. So if you want to see more videos from me, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. That would really help me out. Thanks you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.